This story will challenge your understanding of reality.
I've never had this conversation publicly. Literally a game changer.
The mainstream media wouldn't touch it.
We are at a turning point in human history.
People's right to know.
There is a real phenomenon here. There's no question about that.
March the 5th, 2008, I had a life-changing experience on my work site. This experience that I had just changed my whole life. It made me do the big 180 in life, and I realised that we are completely lied to, 100%. Where my experience happened, it was in what they call the Strzelecki Mountains, and at the time I was an arborist or a tree surgeon, and I had my own company and employed several guys, and we were I went up to a fairly isolated property to do some tree work, where we had to clear this gentleman's driveway because his property was kind of like remnant vegetation, and it had to be cleared so that he could get trucks up his driveway. 2 weeks before my encounter, one of my apprentices, one of my workers, came up to me just out of the blue and said, Mick, there's something not right here. And I looked at him and sort of said, what's wrong, mate? And he told me that he felt extremely uncomfortable working down in a certain area on this property, down where there were some water tanks. And at the time, I thought nothing of it. And anyway, I asked him, what is it? And he said, I don't know. I just got this really weird feeling. And so I told him to come up and work with me and another gentleman that worked for me. And I never really thought any more of it at the time. And then 2 weeks later, when I was working at the same property, I arrived early, and I kind of had this really overpowering feeling of being watched. It was intense. It actually, at the end of the day, become physical. And I've never had anything like that. And at the time, I didn't even put two and two together with, my other worker 2 weeks beforehand, that he felt uncomfortable at this same property. So during the day, we worked from around about 8 o'clock in the morning right through to 3:45 in the afternoon. And during the day, this feeling just come and went. And it was kind of bizarre. It was really weird. At the end of the day, it was time to pack up. So we drove out of the property, or out to the gate, and I said to my other co-worker, if you just get going and I'll see you at the shed tomorrow. And I was left alone on this property, and after he left, he was only probably gone several minutes, and I again got this overwhelming feeling of being watched, and it got super intense at this stage. What was really bizarre about the whole thing was everything went extremely quiet. There was no birds, there was no rustling of the leaves on the trees, no wind noise, just nothing, dead quiet. Then I began to vibrate, and at this point, it started off very subtle, and it was kind of from the top of my spine down to my coccyx. And at the time, I didn't even relate to my spine, but it was basically vibrating down my spine. And then it began to sort of radiate out the whole of my body. So basically my arms, my fingers, my head, my legs, everything was vibrating. And it started off again, like I say, subtle, but it ended up getting more and more intense, to the point where I just thought, what is going on here? I remember looking at myself and thinking, what is this? And I remember looking at my hands to see if I could see them moving, and I couldn't see them moving, but I could feel the intensity of the vibration through my body. And the vibration, like I say, was coming right through my body. And I remember asking myself a question, after looking at my hands and I couldn't see them vibrating, and thinking, what the F is this? And with that, I remember turning and looking back down the driveway of the property, and there was this little kid standing there, what I thought initially. And I'm kind of looking at this small child, what I thought was a small child, a little skinny kid with no top on. And that's kind of how I processed the situation, and what I was looking at. But then my eyes adjusted and my mind adjusted differently. And I really saw what I was really seeing, and there it was, here I am looking, thinking it's a little child, and it's this little grey being that would have been about 3 foot tall, maybe a bit more, had the typical bulbous head, and these big black eyes that sort of went on an angle. And I don't know whether I said it or thought it, what the F is this? And the vibration was there. Here I am looking at this, which I now realise, and I don't care what anyone thinks, I know what I was looking at. It was a little grey being. And it's just standing there. It was very, very skinny. It was a classic grey. It was standing around about 25 metres from where I was. And it was just standing there staring at me. So after the event, things started to happen. I had bouts of missing time where I just did not recall how I could get to places in the time that it had elapsed, or I had just don't remember how I'd got there. I would have white flashes, so I'd be walking around outside or in a house, and there'd be just a complete white flash. It was like a camera flash. My wife, she'd find blood on her pillow in the morning, and we'd have a look. She hadn't had a blood nose, and there was no areas where the blood could have possibly come from. She had scratches and bruises, and she'd go to bed normally, and then she'd wake up with these scratches and bruises, and I witnessed them, like they were like finger marks, scratches down her arms, both arms. She also one morning woke up and she had a big massive bruise, about this big, above her vaginal area, sort of between her vagina and her stomach. And again, we don't know how that happened. I also had times where I'd hear footsteps running down hallways, and it was like scampering, like these things running really, really quickly. And if you can imagine, if you get a piece of paper and scrunch it, and all that happening at the same time. And then all of a sudden you would hear just this one very loud thing run down a hallway, and if you can imagine the fastest runner on the earth, an Olympian running down doing the 100 meters, that's what it was like. It's just this down the hallway, which was unexplainable. I saw over the 6 years multiple UFOs, flashes, daytime UFOs, nighttime UFOs, lights in the sky like orbs. And on several occasions, I was asleep and would wake up, and I saw greys at the end of my bed. And I remember one time yelling, saying, "Yeah, get out of here!" And one of them bobbed down, and the other one actually ran and fell over the other one, and it was quite funny at the time, but the whole thing wasn't really all that funny. One of the experiences I had was I was doing tree hazard assessments in a plantation one day, and all of a sudden, if you can imagine, there was just this figure appeared about 10 meters in front of me. And the way to describe it, if you can imagine a flock of birds or a hive of bees, all pixelated, and it was in a bipedal shape, and it walked from the front of me around about 10 meters past me, where I spun and thought, what is that? And I watched it walk probably 10 feet past me, and it just disappeared, just dematerialized. And then I went down the path of looking at Yowies, which is an Australian version of Bigfoot, American Bigfoot or Sasquatch. And I had some extremely scary experiences doing that. I did a lot of research on UFO activity. I joined several different groups. I sort of met lots and lots of people that had UFO encounters and alien abductions. I met a lady that had an implant. We went down to Melbourne and met her down in Melbourne. So that was my interest, because I wanted to learn more and more and more. And the deeper I looked, the more I found. And it became a bit of an obsession with myself and my wife. We, we got very, very involved in, like I say, the CE5s and the research, which caused lots and lots of paranormal activity in our house. From that point, me and my wife got right into researching Yowies, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and it was amazing how we were lured into it all. The more we looked, the more we found. And what was annoying was a lot of people were saying that these things were, number one, not real, and take it from me, they are 100% real. And they were saying that they were friendly, and the research that I was doing was not indicating that they're friendly. That opened another can of worms and sort of led us deeper into New Age and different ways that people saw these beings. We started to see a lot of deceptions and a lot of red flags with the New Age. And we began to question everything a little bit deeper. We couldn't understand why, through the research that we were doing, why a lot of these people that we were interviewing were having traumatic experiences, where the New Age was saying that these beings, extraterrestrials, were here to save humanity and, love and light and peace. And yet what we were hearing was the complete opposite. These people were traumatized, they had implants, they had scratches and bruises and traumatic experiences. We also noticed it in the the Bigfoot community. We went to several lectures in America, and we noticed that the people were saying one thing, but then the research was showing quite obviously other stuff happening. Again, not very nice experiences. So what we found was, these Bigfoot communities were saying that, the Sasquatch and the Bigfoot were here to help humanity, yet there was no evidence of it. If they were, what were they doing? They were saying that they were, here to protect this and that, but there was no evidence of it. We were on a search for truth at this point, and my wife began to read passages in the Bible that kind of did 100% contradict what we were seeing. And we felt that all these people that were involved in these communities were being very, very much deceived because, we were searching for truth. We didn't just, float along wanting to, la, 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 and hope for the best, because there was indicators showing that what they were saying was completely opposite to what we were researching and experiencing ourselves. And then once we started doing that, then we started to, become basically attacked. We were getting demonic attacks. At that time, we went through a period probably of about 8 months where we started to come under attack, and we're having things happen which we really didn't understand what was happening as we started to come out of New Age. And we had things like shadow beings running through our house. We had ice come out of an air conditioner, just ice flew out of the air conditioner onto the floor. We had knocking on the walls. We had pictures moving. So if you can imagine having, paintings or pictures on the wall, and when you'd get up, they'd been moved, like they were sitting sideways, and there's no way that they could have done that without someone moving it. We had weird noises. We had lights flickering on and off. We had weird little emojis on our phone that we'd never seen before. Someone would send us a text and there'd be a little extraterrestrial emoji on our phone, and there's none of them on our phones. And we'd ring the people and ask them if they'd sent this emoji, and they'd say no, they hadn't. We had white vans following us, so we'd just pull up somewhere and all of a sudden a white van would appear with, blacked out windows. We had people taking photographs of us, like just out of the blue. They'd just come up to us and take our photo. We also had black helicopters hovering over our house. My wife, she lived in a suburb of Melbourne, and what was quite interesting about this helicopter, it was hovering only 100 feet above, her house, yet there was no wind coming down, but it had the helicopter noise and it was black, but no wind. And helicopters quite obviously have downbursts of wind. So as we went on, things just got worse and worse and worse. I lost my job. We were kind of under attack. My wife got more scratches and bruises, and it was kind of a lot of upheaval in our house. And then my wife started praying to God, to Jesus, and that's when things started to turn around. After the spiritual warfare that lasted for several months. My wife and myself prayed, and we prayed to get a new house, and we were blessed enough to get a new house and leave the house that we were in where all the warfare was going on, the spiritual warfare. We both got very, very close to Jesus, and then we both got baptized in a local church, a full submersion baptism, and then we were both delivered. And that was the best thing that could have ever happened to both of us, because once we were delivered, it all stopped. The whole thing with New Age is it just leads you down the garden path. You think it's love and light, and you think that it's a great way to go, but it's all just deception. The whole thing is deception. It's demonic. You can be a Reiki healer, and sometimes you look at these people and they're the people that need healing, because they're saying that they're healing people, and yet you look at them and their lives are miserable. These aliens say that they're going to come here and save humanity and save the world, and where's the proof of any of that? These things are deceptive. They come in all different forms, like Arcturians and mantis beings and all this, and all they are is demons. They're deceptive. They're here to try and win over, people with their deceptive lies, and the way is definitely to Jesus. Don't go anywhere else. We need Jesus to save you, me, and everyone. And he does. Take it from me. From that point, I've now started to read the Bible, and I've realized how much truth is in the Bible. It's absolutely amazing. And, I look at all the New Age with all the deception, and then when you read the Bible, it's just so much truth. It's incredible. I couldn't believe how much truth is in the Bible. Now that I've turned to Jesus and realised that this other stuff was just all deception, my anxiety's gone, my fear has gone, my understanding is there. I now know what these things are. I know how to rebuke them in the name of Jesus. That's all you have to do, is rebuke them, and they will go. And it's just been a blessing from God to remove the fear, because at the start of this conversation, I never mentioned the fear, and the fear from 0 to 10 was 15. It was off the scale, where now it's basically 0. There's no fear, because I now understand what these things are, and I have basically not had anything since. I haven't seen a UFO. I've never had anything that's really scared me at all. It's just all changed. Thanks to Jesus. What I strongly advise you, if you're into New Age, is to just get right out of it. Pick up a Bible, read it, and realise that Jesus is our Saviour. He wasn't just a man. He was a person that came here to help humanity, and he does. And like myself and my wife, we just absolutely 100% love Jesus.